Okay, today we're going to talk about the foot and above. And we're going to divide the class today into a couple of different sections. The first part, I'm going to review with you some basic anatomy and some basic physiology so you understand the foot and how it works and why it is so important. First of all, there are 26 bones in the foot. That's a lot of bones. All the bones are connected together, bone to bone, by ligaments. All of the bones in the foot have muscles that attach to the bones by tendons, tendon on one bone, tendon on the other bone, muscle in between. Tendons wrap the muscle and make for motion. The muscles receive their direction from the nerves. In the foot, you have two main nerve branches that come from the common tibial nerve, that's from the knee down, a common tibial nerve, and it divides into an outer foot and an inner foot. The outer foot, by divine design, is functionally the hind foot. It's made up of the heel, which is rounded by design. So when you walk, it hits and rolls. The next thing that should touch the surface is the next part of the back foot, and that consists of the outer two toes. That's the hind foot. When the tibia crosses midline, when you're walking, the tibia crosses from leaning this way to this way. The weight shifts from the back foot over to the front foot through the ankle. The talus bone makes up the bottom part of the ankle. The tibia is the top part. That hinge between the tibia and the talus is critical for balance. By divine design, it should be horizontal, so we don't want it to be tipping one way or the other. When you stand for any length of time, my encouragement for all of you is to consciously think about the balance in your foot and keep the majority of the weight on the back foot. How do you know if the majority of the weight is on the back foot? It's easy. You can lift up your greater toe. If you can't lift your greater toe, it's because your tibia is forward. You have too much weight up there. It's common that the back foot and the front foot will become stuck right where my fingertips are touching, right in that part of the foot. It's very common. It occurs because of spending excess time forward. The foot rolls inward and sets the stage for many different kinds of problems. So one of the things I recommend to all of you is to periodically enhance motion between the back foot and the front foot by placing your foot on a ball, like a golf ball. Low level pressure. Put the ball right exactly there, right between the back foot and the front foot, and let the normal shape of the ball create a slight mobilization. Now, keep in mind, there's ligaments holding those two bones together. They're not made to flop around. They're not made to have a lot of motion. But those ligaments have some very minor stretch. They are slightly resilient, so they'll move a little. So don't try to get too much. Don't try to go too deep, but try to create better motion in there, because again, that's one of the most common starting points for problems with the feet. And we're going to talk about them in a few minutes. Now back to anatomy. You have, as I said, 26 bones. You have more than 30 joints. You have more than 100 different muscles. Thank you. You want to play? That's a good sized ball. It's a little bigger than a golf ball, but it's softer, and that works really well. What kind of ball is that? Racquetball. Is that a gift to me? Thank you. Oh, it's yours.
It's hers.
That's hers. Thank you.
Hers.
They work real well. So the bottom of the foot also contains more than 800 nerves and many acupuncture points. Why so many nerves? Well, you have different types of nerves. You have nerves that attach to each joint. You can think about each joint having within inside of it, similar to a GPS system that carries a message from the joint back to your brain. So your brain knows where each part of your foot is. And if you step on a rock or step wrong, you get a message right to the brain that subconsciously will cause you to react to the imbalance or to the stress. You also have conscious nerves that you can think about. So when you think about your posture, you can affect the feet. Those of you who have T-zones, when you stand on the T-zone, you can use a soft pad and you get a lot of therapy to all of the nerve endings on the bottom. You can also turn sideways on the T-zone and move to the edge, so you get a lot of lifting motion on the front of the foot, creating motion in the ankle in that joint. You can slide back on the T-zone, so you get a lifting back here, and you get a motion from the other direction. I recommend you do that. Also recommend you change the alignment of your foot, like you do when you do sacral slide. You turn the foot out, turn the foot in, so you get multiple directions of stress, and keep it slow and keep it short term.
And that's on the T-zone.
On the T-zone. Keep in mind, if you're on the T-zone on the speed of 1, it's going to move 3 times per second. So if you stand there for 20 seconds, you've moved 60 times. That's a lot of therapy. So don't camp out. Keep changing. It's better to change often than stay in one spot too long. Now, on the bottom of the feet also, you have many acupuncture points. When you do any kind of touch to the bottom of the foot, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. You can stimulate different areas of the body. I have a good friend who's an acupuncturist, and she told me you don't have to be right where they put the needles in. The acupuncture point is larger than a dime, and if you make any kind of contact in any area down there, you're affecting the meridian. When they put the needles in, or put a BB on, or put your fingertip on, all you're doing is basically modifying energy. I like to think of it kind of like when my wife's cooking. She's from Canada. She likes to cook on high. So she has me stir the soup. Why? So I don't have to scrub the pan. So when you do any kind of therapy in the bottom of the foot, think of it as energy, not mechanical motion, except when you're doing the joint mobilization. Any questions about what I just said to you about the anatomy and physiology of the foot? No? Then we'll go into the next section. The next section, we're going to talk about problems with the feet. I think I have enough, may not have quite enough handouts for you. This side of the handout shows foot problems by the diagnosis. So pass it around. The back side, we're going to not do the test yet. We're going to do problems with the feet. I'd like to make this apply to you. We're going to talk about the foot problems first, common ailments. I'd like you to look at that list, and if any of you have, or have a family member that has, or a friend that has any of these problems, let's talk about it. So, after you look at that for a moment or two, do any have any of these problems? They would feel okay with us talking about. None?
I've had 3 operations on my feet, so I'm sure I have
Some
a
of
lot
that,
of them. Yeah.
okay?
Neuropathy.
Neuropathy.
What's pronation? Pronation?
Pronation is when the front foot gets tired from leaning too far forward, and the foot goes inward and down. So that's pronation. It's always secondary to excessive tissue strain, either time or intensity, and the muscles in the bottom of the feet fatigue. Now keep in mind I said to you, ligaments hold the bones together. They don't hold them in place, they just hold them together. Muscles move them. When muscles get tired, they get long, they get weak, and then you get pronation.
She has.
When you have pronation in the foot, that sets the stage for other problems, which we'll talk about. So the first one to talk about is neuropathy. Neuropathy is a word that has 2 main parts. Neuro, of course, means nerve. Pathy means something wrong with the nerve. Neuropathy most commonly is found in diabetics because diabetics have, again, in principle, too much sugar in the blood, not enough oxygen in the blood. If we can reverse that, we help neuropathy. Neuropathy is usually a combination of that problem, chemical imbalance, plus structural imbalance. Structural stress. Where can the structural stress be? It can start in the neck, the low back where the nerve comes out. It can be in the leg, commonly in the knee, very commonly in the ankle, and more commonly in the foot between the toes. So the nerves down in that area get compromised. How do you compromise a nerve? Number 1, you have bad chemistry. Number 2, you take a nerve and twist it. That modifies function. You can also stretch it. When you have pronation, you have a stretching. You can also pinch it. When you pinch it, you reduce the flow of energy through the nerve and back through the sensory nerve.
Is the neuropathy in your feet like tingling, or they feel like they fall asleep, or you don't feel it at all? Like what is the
Well, they
symptom
tingle,
of it?
plus they're numb.
They're numb, so you don't feel.
So the answer to the question is all of the above. Any of or all of the above. It can be tingle, it can be, it feels thick, I can't feel it, it's achy, You might even have a restless leg. A lot of different symptoms indicate something's wrong with the nerve. Now, again, quick review. We've talked about functional problems, that are things aren't working right. We have pathological problems. That means that the pressure's been there long enough that the nerve itself now is malfunctioning. And the nerve can actually get sick and the nerve can die. The good news is, if that happens, that's bad. If the nerve dies, there still remains a channel where the nerve existed, and the nerve will deteriorate, and the nerve can grow. How fast?
No.
About the same speed as hair growing. Very slow. But it can, if you maintain proper chemistry, proper motion, balance, and alignment, the same old thing. So, you talked about neuropathy. You're a diabetic, right?
Yeah.
So, let me tell you a quick story. I listened to a surgeon a few years ago try to market, he was marketing, not try, he was marketing stomach reduction. Ban, cut it out, reduce it, whatever, to help people who are way overweight to lose weight. That was the market. And then he said, oh, by the way, anytime we do a stomach surgery, we cure neuropathy, we cure diabetes. Now, when he said that, I thought, you really stuck your neck way out when you said that. He flat out said, we cure diabetes. But then as I thought about that a lot, I thought, sure. Why? What did he do? He reduced, what?
Took the weight off.
No. Why did he get diabetes? Too much sugar. So guess what? Instead of having a lot of sugar, now you can only have a little bit. So guess what happens to the diabetes? It goes away. So, can you do that without having your stomach cut out? If you have a strong mind and a real intent, and you stick to it, and you take your sugar quantity and go way, way, way down for a long period of time.
So, would this help at Bed Bath and Beyond? They have, it must be an electric blanket that comes up, and so, and then it vibrates, a deal that you put your feet in that it vibrates, so it vibrates and heat. Would that help neuropathy or not?
It helps any kind of therapy like that will modify symptoms. Probably reduce the pain. Does it create a cure? No. But again, what do medical doctors usually focus on? Symptoms. So in that respect, yeah, you can help it.
No, doesn't the T-zone, like it gets like the oxygen down to the feet if you stand on it?
Exactly. And the high speed gets more circulation, you get more oxygen, you also get more detoxification with the veins and the lymphatic system. And if you want to maintain your diabetes, drink some sugar water while you're doing it.
I sit on a chair and put my feet on the T-zone.
See, and that's a very good thing to do, because he's like that therapy. You're helping locally. And when you go to the kitchen,
I get some sugar water.
So does heat help neuropathy?
anytime you apply heat, you enhance the speed of the function. So the answer would be, You can speed up what your body's trying to do, whatever your body is trying to do. Will heat cure neuropathy? No, but it will help relieve some symptoms. Okay, are there any other symptoms on this sheet that you would like to talk about?
Hammer toes.
Pardon?
Hammer toes?
Hammer toes usually are triggered or started by shoes that are too narrow. And so are some of the
What are
other.
hammer toes, I guess?
Some,
Like that have the bunions out the side,
bunion.
Curled under your toes, kind of
curled under?
You can have a number of different pathologies at the same time. You can have hammer toe, you can have bunion, you can have corn, you can have neuroma. By the way, a neuroma usually occurs between toe 2 and toe 3 down here because the back foot and the front foot are not moving freely, so they get torqued and they rub and they become pathologic because the tissue starts to break down.
So how do you know if you have a neuroma in between those toes? Like,
Your
is
body
it a
will
blister? Is it like sore? Is
No.
it what?
Your foot will say to you, I have a neuroma.
I guess I don't. It's never said
You
anything.
will see, we use some kind of word that
Does it separate? Like,
it's stuck together and rubs.
so
It
they
hurts.
kind of like,
It hurts.
they kind of go together.
They go over it together and they rub and they get inflamed. And the tissue then becomes pathologic and starts to break down.
So you can have some burning in there, you can have some tingling in there.
Burning, tingling.
So I used to have that and it
Did you get
stemmed.
blisters? I mean, I guess if
I
they rub
didn't have
together.
blisters. It was more like almost an adhesion underneath the foot between the toes. And it happened because I used to wear heels all the time and I was on my feet all day long. So my feet were forced into that pointed toe up there. So a lot of the energy was focused on that spot of my foot. And it told me it was there because my toes would start going numb, the second toe, the third toe, until I took the pressure off and spread my toes out. So I'd have to take my shoe off, put my foot down, spread my toes out, use a golf ball, and over time of not wearing heels and being on my feet all the time, using the whole body vibration, using the golf ball, it broke up the neuroma and it went away. So my toes don't go numb anymore. So you can dissolve it, but usually it's something like that, and you'll feel tingling, burning, numbness, very localized, not like neuropathy that he's talking about.
And the podiatrist would be very happy to help you with that by cutting it out, making it shoeless.
So you could just separate your toes with those stuff that they give you. At
Use the yoga toes
things,
or
or like even do a little sock in between every other one or something.
Anytime you could do any of the minor therapies to help the body do what it's trying to do, which is create motion, balance, and alignment properly according to design, you've helped the body. And there's not a one cure fix all. There's not one way only to do it. You need to do multiple approaches. Now I'd like to comment on a couple of others. One would be a blister or a callus. We have a son, Alma, who does outdoor recreation. He takes people on hikes often. After about half an hour, he'll say, everybody sit down. Think about your feet. Do any of you have warm spots on your feet? In where? Oh yeah, I've got a warm spot on my heel. So they say, take off your shoe and sock. And he pulls out of his back duct tape. And then tear off a little strip of duct tape and cover up the warm spot. Why?
no blister.
No blister. A blister comes quick because of hot, heavy, intense therapy. Now, if it's low level, you're a farmer, you buy shoes that are a little bit too tight, they don't quite fit right, and it kind of rubs your foot, but it doesn't ever get mad. It just kind of bothers you, and you develop a callus. That's what a bone spur is. It's a callus from gentle, long-term stress, and the body builds up a protective layer. The bottom of the foot, one of the pathologies is a heel spur. If you look at the front of the heel, it has a point. That point is there for a major unique ligament that attaches at that point and goes into a fan up to the front part of the foot to hold that foot, to hold those bones together. If you lean forward too much and you start to get pronation, you start to turn in, those ligaments get elongated. As they elongate with pressure, it puts more pull on that attachment. So guess what the body does? Reinforces. The reinforcement creates thicker, longer, tougher bone tissue. Now guess what? Now you have a spur. It feels like a needle. It's sharp. And it's there for protection, but if it continues to be aggravated, we have a new problem. That's very hard to fix. That's plantar fasciitis. That's the number one problem when people go to podiatrist. That's one of the main problems that they have is plantar fasciitis from body leaning forward. How do you fix it? We've talked about it. Immobilize the back foot, front foot. You shorten the ligament. Think of the ligament like you would the string on a long bow. A long bow has a long string. If you make the string on the long bow too long, you weaken it, and when it weakens, your foot goes down. So what do? You shorten it. So when you put that ball in your foot and separate, you can also, if you have tendonitis, you can also kind of ease these bones up to shorten the bowstring on the bow to lower the process of plantar fasciitis.
What's the symptoms of those? Like the pain and where is that located? What does that feel like?
That feels, probably the first thing you would feel would be tired feet. My feet are tired. Then they ache. Then they hurt. Then they get madder and madder and madder. Okay? And the pain can go, you cannot.
So if your whole foot hurts, you got plantar fasciitis.
Probably.
Our granddaughter has plantar fasciitis, and they put her in a boot at night, and she has to roll her feet on ice.
Yeah, so
And when you were saying put material in between your toes, they have toe bandages.
right. Again, those are all good symptomatic therapies. The cure will never come unless you get the body balanced back where it belongs.
The head aligned.
The head should be balanced over the back foot when you stand.
What causes the stress fracture in your foot?
The stress fracture would be, again, for a stress fracture to occur, you probably have some chemical weakness. Maybe too much acidity in your body, so your body takes the alkaline minerals out of the bones because many of your organs are more important than the bones, so that it makes the blood more, to keep the blood alkaline, 7.3, plus or minus a little bit. So you weaken the bone, and then you traumatize it mechanically by too much pounding on it. Too hard a shoe, too much walking, too much standing, and so the bone actually collapses. That's common in the spine, it's common in the feet. It's called a compression or stress fracture. And when you get a stress fracture, you have a weakened bone. You also have a reduction of stem cells because the bones make stem cells. When they're weak, they don't do as well. So again, the magnet stem supplement helps lower the risk of that. So does eating greens to alkalize the blood. Okay, now, ingrown toenails, that's a common problem. Again, from shoes that are too tight. Usually the ingrown toenails will occur on the greater toe, will be on the side. If you have a chronic ingrown toenail that you're always fussing with, my recommendation is go find a podiatrist and have surgery. Have them slice off and kill that portion of the nail on your foot, and it will fix it. One time, you're done. That will never grow back. We had people this week that have had that done, and it works very effectively. Now, another problem, which is personal, when I went through high school, I developed athlete's foot. Now, I was told I got athlete's foot from one of my friends who had athlete's foot. And I was told what to do for it, to put things, chemical on the foot. I tried everything I was told, by mom, by grandma, by friends, by doctor, pharmacist. I did all this stuff. It didn't change it. I had athlete's foot on my left foot. For a while I tried not to put my left sock on my right foot. Scared, I didn't want to contaminate my right foot. Then I forgot about it. So I contaminated my right foot. Guess what I didn't get on my right foot? Athlete's foot. I never got it on my right foot, only on my left. I scratched my head. Why that? No, not here. I was raised on a farm, a lot of low back problem. We didn't go to chiropractic very much, but I had pain for a long time. When I was on my mission, my first assignment was in Leesville, Louisiana. My back hurt real bad, so I found a chiropractor. It was an old guy in a small office. I went in and he worked on me, and he said, "Do you have any other problems?" I said, "Yeah, I have an athlete's foot. It bothers me a lot now." I was in Louisiana. It was hot. It was moist. My athlete's foot was getting mad. And I said, "Yeah, I have athlete's foot." They said, "Oh, that's because your nerve was pinched." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The nerves that go to your foot, they come from your back. Your back is out of alignment. Something's wrong in your back. It's affecting the function of the leg and the foot. Your left leg is not as healthy as it should be. You have a bad environment down there. So, of course, you have a bad environment, bad things are going to move in and try to clean it up." I left his office thinking, what a kook. That guy's nuts. And I went back to saw him a few times. He did a good job. He told me some things to do. Guess what happened to my athlete's foot? Went away. It just went away. I thought, wow, that's cool. It was from a nerve malfunction. Now, I didn't have neuropathy. I did have some knee problem. I had some weakness, but it never connected in my head. So, any other questions about common ailments in the foot? If not, we're going to go on to the next portion of the class. We're now going to talk about the test. I've already given you some of the answers. So, would someone like to read? Somebody who could read, okay?
The foot contains 26 bones, 30 joints, and over 100 tendons, muscles, and ligaments, plus over 800 nerve endings.
True.
By divine design, the human foot has both the hind and front foot combined into one.
True. Did you know that before? I think it's fantastic that God could do such a thing for us.
Barefoot activities greatly improve balance and posture.
True. Why? Because when you wear a shoe, you reduce the sensory input to the mechanics in the foot. When you have all the sensory data, and the longer you have it, the greater the balance of the body. Now, you know, if you look at life in general, old people like to wear wide shoes, right? With good support. A lot of young parents who have more ignorance and pride than common sense put their children into wide, hard shoes so they can brag. My child walked when they were 8.5 months old. Is that normal? No. The human body has an 18-month gestation period. 9 months in the womb, 9 months continue to develop. When a child develops normally, they first learn how to creep. When you think of creep for an infant, they're on the belly. Think of a soldier. They're on the belly, they're going through grass, they move the hands, they move the leg, they drag the belly, they stay low. They first creep. And then as they develop muscles in the back of their neck, the low back, and their arms, they become stronger. As their brain develops, they then say, I can get off my belly, and I can get my belly up in the air, and I can now move. And I can rearrange the furniture in the kitchen and all kinds of things in the cupboards. So they crawl. That's the next step. And if their brain is developing properly, they cross crawl. Cross crawl means right hand, left knee. Left hand, right knee. And that helps to develop the brain.
Rhythm included,
Pardon?
musical rhythm included.
Musical rhythm included.
If you don't crawl, you don't get rhythm.
So
My husband was a school teacher and he always said, they need to crawl so they can read.
Yeah.
we lived in Topeka, Kansas for, there was a neurological clinic there. A couple of doctors, Doman and Delicata, they were specialists in helping handicapped people of all ages. They developed a unit that forced you to crawl correctly. You got down on your hands and your knees, and if you moved any part, you moved all 4 contacts. And you then spent a lot of time on the cross crawl machine. I had one in my clinic for a while, and it works, and it makes people smarter. I have a lady right now that I'm seeing who has had some brain injuries. We've had her crawl frontwards and backwards, and it's helped her already within a few weeks. I have a fellow right now who is in his 80s. When had him do the walk of shame down the hall, right hand, right foot, left hand, left foot. I thought, oh my gosh, you didn't crawl, did you? Had a hard time walking. He also had some mental stuff going on. So we had him do the same thing I just talked about. Crawl forward, crawl back. Walk down the hall, practice. Right foot, left hand.
So can I just share a
Sure.
personal experience with that? I do a lot of work on the computer, and every once in a while I will start, we'll say my accuracy goes down, and I start typing dyslexically. Like instead of hitting the L, I'll hit the D. Like it's the wrong hand doing the letter. And I'll get up and I'll crawl, or I'll stand and do the same kind of cross pattern, and it will reintegrate my brain, and I'll start typing in normal, proper English again. And part of that is because I've had a lot of head and neck injuries, but I think some of it just stems from sitting at a computer in a bad position for a long time, and the nerves stop working how they should. But it's an easy, quick fix.
You exceed tissue tolerance.
Yeah.
When you exceed tissue tolerance, you start to malfunction. Okay, next.
Specialized mechanoreceptors in the sole of the foot transmit tactile and,
Proprioceptive.
thank you, feedback used by general nervous system for reflexive and conscious adjustment to posture.
True. Now, in plain English, think of those big words as local joint GPS. It affects two parts of the brain. The automatic part and the conscious part. So you can be walking along through the grass, getting earthy, and you step on a sticker, and your body will instantly react. You haven't even thought about it, and you're done. Then now you're aware of it, now you start watching for stuff. So you have both levels of reaction.
When purchasing shoes, it is better to have them narrow to give support. Parents who give
Narrow and higher for the pride portion of you.
Parents who give infants firm-soled shoes so they can walk early set the stage for problems later.
True. Again, back to the normal developmental time. 9 months is when a baby should, normally, that's the range, about 9 months, give or take a few weeks. If they haven't walked by 12 months, I would suggest there's a problem. They have a problem in the foot, the ankle, the knee, the hip, the low back, or the head. I had the privilege, I have mentioned this before, of treating a young person, about 2, from New York, visiting Colorado at a family reunion. The child had never walked, could hardly stand. And they had a lot of different tests done with no success. I treated him twice. One day, the next morning, he walked and he ran. That's on the day after I helped his hips and his head. I treated him again. Then I went back to New York. He's been fine ever since. We don't know what happened, but he was not straight, like with Deborah. When things are not straight, they don't work right. Okay?
When checking for functional foot issues, what should be checked? A, head forward posture. B, weight on greater toes while standing. C, low arch representation. D, Achilles angle upon knee flex.
All the above. Let me talk
Something.
about the Achilles. If you were to stand up and turn around, so we're looking at the back of your foot. When you bend your knees, if the Achilles tendon bends, when you bend your knee, you have a problem. That's a major problem. The Achilles tendon is big, wide, heavy tendon that goes around the bottom of the heel. It's very important. But if it's bent, now you're pathologic and you're breaking down.
So what's the answer?
Pardon?
All of them.
All, for sure.
Mobilizing the front foot, back foot junction is a good preventative measure.
True. Now we switch topics. Now we're going to talk for a few minutes about cleansing the body and cleansing the feet.
Cleansing of the feet can be enhanced by using BioCleanse, foot SAP patches, vodka, wine, apple cider vinegar, Epsom salt, and soak 2 tablespoons each in enough hot water to cover top of feet.
All the above. Now, a BioCleanse is a device. You can write the word ion, I-O-N, ion cleanse. You take a pan, have a special device with it's called an A-ray, it just says ion cleanse. You put the A-ray in the water, it changes the polarity of the water molecules. And in principle, it turns the feet into kidney-like functions. So it cleans toxins out of the blood as the blood flows through your feet in the water. It's very effective. This costs, when I bought it, about $2,200. That was back then. Now you can go online, if you look up the word ion cleanse, you can probably buy a good ion cleanse machine for under $500. If you do, make sure you can buy a new A-ray, the letter A, ray. That's what goes in the water. Some cheap machines, they're hard to get. Make sure, if you do it, make sure you get a warranty and a return policy and all that stuff. And then you can use that periodically to help detoxify the whole body. It's not a cure-all, but it's another way to clean out toxins from the body. The first time I did it, and the second time, I smelled DDT. I had not been around DDT for more than 35 years. The DDT was stored in my body in fat cells. So when it came out of the water, I could smell it, and I could see the color indicated that the toxins came out of the fat. If you buy an iron unit, it will have a color code that tells you by color where most of the toxins came from.
How often can you use that?
I
Once
was
a
asked that
week, or-
yesterday. My answer is this. It's kind of like, how often do you want to kiss your husband?
In the clinic, we usually did it like 3 times a week, twice a week, but people were coming in to do it.
And then after about 10 or 12 times, water is basically clean. If you have one in your home, you can do it a few times a month. You can do it off and on over the years. So you can do it periodically.
You need to drink more water. I heard with those, it kind of dehydrates you, so you need to drink more water. Is that true?
I've never heard that, but water is always beneficial for detoxifying.
It doesn't dehydrate you, but if you're properly hydrated, you'll get better results.
Oh, okay.
Now, the next one is the sap patches. We talked about this before. This happens to be a brand you can buy online. If you want to write it down, you can go online. You end up with 10 little patches. This is one for each foot. You put them on the foot according to where you want therapy. Now, I have a foot reflexology chart. There's nothing sacred about this. You can go online and you can get them. But the idea is this: upper body, mid body, lower body. If you buy them, you can alternate. You can do lung, gut, low back, kidneys. You can kind of move them up and down. What you do with them is you peel off the sticky stuff, you put it on the foot at bedtime, you leave it overnight. Overnight, your body will react to the herbs that are in the pads, will suck out poisons. In the morning you peel it off, it's going to be wet and probably black, will help clean some. Now, which is better? This, that, it's different, okay? The third cleanse is on the paper for you. B, that's a combination of those chemicals, vodka, wine, apple cider vinegar, Epsom salt, 2 tablespoons soap. That helps clean out the toxins. A lady in class this week asked, what about arthritic hands? Can you use that combination with hands? And the answer is yes. You can take a smaller pan, put 1 tablespoon of each, hot water, soak the hands till the water cools down. If you want, then you can pour that water in a bigger container, add a tablespoon more, for more hot water, and do your feet at the same time. If you have arthritic stuff in the hands, you want to detoxify them. Okay, next.
foot reflexology is a safe, family-friendly asset when done gently.
Okay, underline family friendly and circle gently.
Sometimes it hurts really bad.
If it hurts really bad, they're doing it wrong. Keep in mind, when you do a foot and you can go online, you can find different charts. When you do foot reflexology, you're not mobilizing bones, okay? We're not going that deep. We're not doing a massage to the skin. We're modifying current. Much the same as an acupuncturist putting in a needle. You can hold one finger, and it doesn't matter if you do this finger or this finger, right hand or left hand, but you need to know that your hand and your fingers have different polarity. So you have negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. If you touch with this finger on the foot part of the foot, and then this finger, it has a different effect. Can you do it wrong? No, you'll never do any damage unless you press too hard and get kicked. So be gentle and think, well, I'm doing energy therapy. Family friendly, that means I'll do yours, you do mine. You do mine first, so I know how hard to push when I do yours.
I'm sorry, I know I've talked a lot, but can I just add another personal experience with that?
Yeah.
So I did massage therapy for years and years and years, and there was at one point we went to a family reunion up in Canada, and my mom's cousin had heart replacement, like open heart, heart replacement surgery, whatever. And he was not doing well. And he was there, but he was in his bed in the hotel room preparing to die because he was on his way out. And I wanted to see him, so I went over and visited with him, and I sat down at his feet, and the whole time we were visiting, I just lightly did reflexology on his feet. I wasn't like focused on, I'm doing this point and this point and this point. I was just kind of rubbing and stimulating and all of that. To this day, a good 20 years later, he claims it saved his life. But what it did was mobilize the pathways so that what he had done could take and function properly. And it was just a simple little non-specific thing that had a huge impact.
Thank you for saying that, Deborah, because when you do that family-friendly contact, you'll always do more good than you will ever know. Okay, so be willing and able to
So let your husband rub your feet every night, that sounds good.
No, don't have him rub your feet. If he rubs your feet, he's gonna go, not thinking about reflexology. He's gonna go deep and go for sore mechanical spots. Unless you can get his attention and say, okay, now, you rub mine, then I'll rub yours, okay? And if you rub too hard, I'm gonna do the same.
That was one of the things we actually did with you when you were in the hospital after your first strokes and heart attacks. Denise and I were visiting and would kind of take turns with just rubbing his feet and talking to him and using different essential oils. And again, they gave you zero chance of leaving the hospital alive.
It made a major difference.
Yeah.
And think about, we talked about earthing, like plugging your mat into the earth to get the energy from the earth. When you touch somebody else's feet, bare feet, with your bare hands, remember this, you then become a generator of energy, and you share your energy with them. Also think about this, your intent is more important than where you place your finger. So if your intent is to, like you did when you're working on me, Dad, I'm going to help you. We're going to be very gentle, and that made a huge difference. Number 11.
When possible, while standing, it is better to have more weight on the heels or the toes and front foot.
Heels. 12.
While walking, it is therapeutic to have thumbs forward, head high, shoulders and elbows moving backward, and not long strides.
True. When you take long strides, you'll always lean forward. I had a lady this week who talked to me about her knee. She said, I noticed when I walk, my knee hurts more. And the other day I was walking down the hall, I saw my foot was turned out. Why did the foot turn out? The foot turned out because she's a rightist, leaning right and forward. So when she picked up her leg, her body's falling forward and right. So her foot automatically, because of the nerves in the foot, knew that it needed to catch her by turning out. It should have been straight. She would have maybe rolled the ankle. So what's the solution? Walk slower, smaller steps. That helps keep the feet aligned. That's a big, big deal. Now, with what you know, my encouragement is for you to watch other people walk. Even young kids, teenagers. And then if you really want to feel bad, watch old people walk. And set a goal. When you're old, I'd like to encourage you to be like my grandmother Cooper, 92, straight up. Then not leaning right or left, not forward. Small steps. She had one complaint with God. That was, why don't you let me die? She
Well, these
missed.
guys' mom is 100, right?
Yeah.
It's turned 100, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being here.